Welcome to Short Movie Channel. Our movie today begins in a small village in the Indian city of Kampan. We see Michael and his newly pregnant wife, Maria. Michael insists that they move to Mumbai and settle there permanently. Michael approaches a little girl and asks her opinion about his idea. Suddenly, the girl points her hand toward Maria and screams in a terrifying way. Right after this, the movie jumps forward 6 years, showing Maria waking up startled from her sleep. She hits Michael, who is sleeping next to her, waking him up. He tries to calm her down as she clings to him for comfort. Next, we see a picture of Michael and Maria with their children, Oliver and Lucy. The following morning, Michael and Maria have breakfast with their daughter, Lucy, and their dog, Winston. However, we notice that their son Oliver, who appeared in the photo, is not with them at the breakfast table or even in the house. It becomes clear that they have been living in Mumbai for the past 6 years, and they have a housemaid named Becky. One evening, Michael returns from work and finds Maria asleep with the TV still on. As he approaches the bed to sleep, a bottle of sleeping pills falls from Maria's hand. Michael realizes that Maria isn't sleeping but has taken the pills in an attempt to end her life. He immediately calls for an ambulance, which arrives quickly and takes Maria to the hospital. At the hospital, Maria recalls a tragic incident from 6 years ago. She was driving her car with Oliver and Lucy in the back seat when their vehicle plunged into a river. Maria desperately tried to unbuckle her children's seatbelts before the car fully submerged. She managed to free Lucy but couldn't save Oliver because his leg was stuck in the seat in front of him. As the car sank further, Maria had no choice but to save Lucy. She grabbed her daughter, swam to the surface, and called out for help. However, the people around stopped her from diving back into the water to rescue Oliver. The movie returns to the present, showing Maria in the hospital after surviving her suicide attempt. Becky, the housemaid, visits her and tells her that she knows a way to bring Oliver back so Maria can say goodbye to him. Becky begins to tell Maria about a temple located in a forest near her home village. She explains that this temple serves as the boundary between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Becky shares that she understands Maria's sorrow because she, too, lost her daughter in the past. Becky explains that Maria needs to bring Oliver's ashes and scatter them on the temple's stairs. Then, she must lock herself inside the temple overnight to wait for Oliver to appear. Becky adds that Maria will be able to speak to him and bid him farewell through the temple's door. When Maria started recovering a bit, she left the hospital and returned home. She kept thinking about Becky's words regarding the temple. Later, Maria saw Becky praying next to a picture of her late daughter. Becky noticed Maria watching her, and it seemed Maria wanted to talk. Becky realized that Maria was intrigued by the idea of the temple and had begun seriously considering it. Maria told Becky that she wanted to communicate with her son, Oliver, and say goodbye to him at the temple, just as Becky had described. Becky warned Maria, saying, "When you communicate with your son Oliver and talk to him, you must keep the temple door closed between you and him. Never open it, no matter how much he pleads or begs you to open the door. Don't listen to him at all, because the door must remain closed." Maria agreed to Becky's instructions. The two of them went to the cemetery where Oliver was buried to collect ashes from his body. They were accompanied by a few people. They opened the grave and brought the coffin to the surface. When they opened the coffin, Maria insisted on seeing Oliver's body for herself. She looked at him and held his favorite toy, a tiger named Khan, which was buried with him inside the coffin. Afterward, they took Oliver's body and cremated it, accompanied by some local men. Becky explained that these men were from the Agori tribes, known for covering their bodies with the ashes of the dead and consuming their flesh. The Agori strongly believe that these rituals help them connect with the other world, the realm of the dead. The next morning, Becky took Maria to the train station to start her journey to Becky's village. Becky reassured Maria, saying, "Don't worry about anything, I'll take care of Michael and Lucy." With that, Maria embarked on her mysterious journey. The following day, Maria arrived at the edge of the forest after a long trip. She got out of the car and immediately entered the forest, walking until she finally reached the temple. Maria scattered Oliver's ashes on the temple steps before entering again and locking the door behind her. She sat inside, holding a candle, waiting for darkness to fall. As time passed and night approached, Maria began feeling something strange. Suddenly, she heard someone breathing inside the temple with her. Then, there was a loud knocking on the temple door, as if someone was trying to open it. She then heard her son Oliver's voice calling her from behind the door. Maria approached the door and pressed her ear against it, listening to Oliver speaking to her. He told her that he knew she had tried her best to save him during the accident, and that none of it was her fault. Oliver tried to convince her to open the door so he could hug her, saying, "I missed you so much, Mom." Maria apologized to him, saying she wasn't allowed to open the temple door. Upon hearing this, Oliver began crying and said, "All right, I'll leave and go back to where I came from. But I'm scared of the dark, Mom." Despite this, Maria wanted to talk to him for as long as possible. Unfortunately, her maternal instincts took over, and she opened the temple door. However, she found no one outside. She called out for Oliver, and as she turned around, she saw a giant figure from the Agori tribe standing before her. Maria froze in fear, panicked, and tried to run and escape as quickly as possible. During that time, we see a statue of a woman, mummified inside the cave in the temple, strangely moving as if it were alive. The next day, Lucy was playing in her room with her dolls and toys when she suddenly heard a noise coming from outside. Curious, she stepped out to see what it was and found Oliver's favorite toy, a stuffed tiger named Khan, at the top of the stairs. She decided to retrieve it, but as soon as she started walking, Oliver's bedroom door creaked open on its own. About an hour later, Maria returned home to prepare her daughter Lucy for the day. Michael, however, questioned her about her sudden absence. Maria apologized for her behavior, and they hugged each other. That night, Maria woke up to the sound of their dog, Winston, barking. She got out of bed, took Winston out of the room, and then decided to check on Lucy in her room. Feeling an overwhelming sense of longing, she went to ensure Lucy was sleeping peacefully. But as soon as she entered Lucy's room, she heard a strange noise coming from the basement, as if someone was inside. Choosing to ignore these eerie thoughts, Maria returned to her room. The next morning, Maria found Lucy singing in Oliver's bedroom. Maria gently asked her to play somewhere else, away from that room. However, just as Maria was about to leave, Oliver's toy chest suddenly fell to the ground on its own. The alphabet block spilled out and spelled the name, Oliver, on the floor. Despite her growing fear, Maria managed to compose herself once more and ignored what had happened. She went downstairs, but when she entered the living room, she froze. The tiger toy, Khan, was now sitting on the piano. Lucy didn't seem scared at all and cheerfully told Maria, "I want to show you something else." Lucy then began playing a song on the piano that the family used to play together when Oliver was still alive. The shocking part was that the piano continued playing on its own after Lucy stopped. Witnessing all of this, Maria became certain that Oliver's spirit was still in the house. Later, Maria watched the tiger toy, Khan, as she cried over the loss of her son. That night, Lucy told Maria that Oliver had returned but was hiding. Maria asked her not to tell anyone, not even her father, Michael. Maria then took Khan to Oliver's room and placed it on the bed. Suddenly, a storybook fell from the shelf, and the rocking chair moved towards the bed. Maria sat on the chair, picked up the book, and started reading stories to Oliver's spirit. When Michael came home from work and entered the house, Maria hugged him tightly, her mood inexplicably joyful. Michael, however, was confused by her sudden change in behavior. Outside, in the garden, leaves fell eerily to the ground and decomposed almost instantly. The next morning, the housekeeper, Becky, noticed that one of the plants inside the house had withered and died. When she went outside to investigate, she saw that all the plants and trees in the garden had mysteriously withered overnight, and the fish in the pond were all dead. Becky looked at Maria with concern and informed her of what had happened to the garden and the fish. Maria then decided to take Lucy to perform a ritual where they cast the dead birds into the water following Indian customs. While at the water, Maria noticed a man waving at her from a distance. Suddenly, one of the Agori men appeared and smeared ash on her face. Maria quickly grabbed Lucy and left the place as fast as she could. But while they are on the way, riding the tuk-tuk, the vehicle is stopped because of an accident on the road. Maria gets out to check what's going on and finds a man lying on the ground, dead. Suddenly, the man's head moves and looks at her. Maria and Lucy then return home, and at night, a violent thunderstorm erupts outside. Lucy is watching TV when Oliver appears near her, staring at her. The next day, when Maria helps Lucy take a shower, she notices bite marks on Lucy's body. Lucy tells her, "I don't love Oliver anymore. I hate him because he bit me so much yesterday. He's become very evil now." Maria, shocked by what the ghost of Oliver has done, goes to his room to confront him. But Oliver forces her to sit in a chair, demanding she tell him stories from the storybook. When Maria tries to refuse, she finds herself unable to. At that moment, the door slams shut and locks them inside. Maria, frightened, complies with his demands but asks him not to hurt anyone anymore. Later, Michael calls Maria to tell her he'll be late today. Maria, lying next to Lucy, wakes up to the sound of the piano playing. She goes downstairs to the piano and finds the tiger doll, Khan, torn apart and lying on the floor. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. When she opens it, she finds one of the Agori men standing there. She threatens to call the police, but he isn't scared and doesn't move. He then points to a place behind her, and when she turns, she sees a terrifying spirit rushing toward her at high speed. Maria quickly runs back into the house. Becky appears, confronting Maria and saying, "You broke the rules. You didn't listen and open the temple door even though I warned you never to do that." Becky explains that Oliver's spirit wasn't supposed to remain in the world of the living, it needed to return to the world of the dead. She reveals that the terrifying spirit that attacked Maria earlier is Marito, the guardian of the underworld's gate. Marito escaped from the temple when Maria opened the door and is here to take Oliver back to the realm of the dead. In the process, Marito will destroy everything in its path. Becky asks Maria to burn all of Oliver's belongings to sever his connection to the living world. That way, he will have no choice but to return to the afterlife. Maria becomes angry, calling Becky crazy. "I could never do that!" Maria exclaims. "I've waited so long for Oliver to come back to me." Maria storms upstairs. The next day, Michael and Maria take Lucy out to dinner. At the restaurant, Maria sees cockroaches everywhere, but they're just hallucinations. Meanwhile, Becky gathers all of Oliver's belongings, intending to throw them away and burn them. But she sees her late daughter, who drowned in the pool, calling out to her. It's actually Oliver's ghost, disguised as her daughter, trying to distract her. When Becky approaches the pool, she finds her daughter's red hair ribbon in the water. Shortly after, the family returns home and finds Oliver's belongings packed in trash bags. They realize Becky is dead, her body floating in the pool. The family holds a funeral for Becky and cremates her body. Michael attends the funeral, while Maria stays home with Lucy. At night, Maria finally believes Becky's words. She starts a fire and burns all of Oliver's belongings. When Michael comes home and sees this, he tries to put out the fire but fails. Maria explains to him that Oliver has returned as a ghost and killed Becky, and they must burn his belongings to send him back to the afterlife. Michael doesn't understand and thinks Maria has lost her mind. Even when Maria asks Lucy to confirm her story, Lucy tells her father, "I don't know what Mom is talking about. Oliver died in the accident, Dad. We haven't seen him since then." Michael puts Lucy to bed while Maria notices something strange about Lucy's eyes. They look ghostly and terrifying. Realizing that Oliver's spirit has possessed Lucy, Maria confronts him, begging him to leave Lucy's body. Both Maria and Lucy start screaming. Oliver takes Lucy and locks Maria in the room. Meanwhile, Michael hears strange chanting in the garden, Agori men performing rituals in an unfamiliar language. He goes inside, picks up his phone, and tries to call the police. The family dog, Winston, begins barking at Lucy. Annoyed, Lucy kills the dog with a knife and stabs Michael in the stomach, confessing that she isn't Lucy but Oliver's ghost. Maria manages to escape and finds Lucy in Oliver's room, surrounded by Agori men performing a ritual to exorcise Oliver's spirit. When Maria tries to intervene, the men restrain her. Suddenly, Marito reappears, dragging her up the stairs. One of the Agori men prepares to attack Lucy, but Michael intervenes to stop him. Maria pleads with Oliver's ghost, promising to stay with him forever if he leaves Lucy's body. Oliver agrees and leaves Lucy, possessing Maria instead. The Agori men overpower Michael, and one of them stabs Maria. She awakens on the temple steps in the forest, hearing Oliver calling out to her. Realizing she is dead, Maria understands she is now in the afterlife. And that concludes today's story. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video.